So we will see what happens if we can get if we can get Jeffrey off life support. That would be something, right? So let me just anyway. Of course, the other irony with this story is that the founder of Toys R Us passed away today. His name was Lazarus. I believe it was Charles Lazarus, if I'm not mistaken. And Charles Lazarus was 94 years old. And so, hold on. Okay, here we go. There it is. Okay, so Charles Lazarus, the founder of Toys R Us, died today at 94. Kind of ironic that he should die on the very same day that his company was supposed to go into bankruptcy. But like I said, from sources that I read today, Toys R Us was taken out. Well, because of this unforeseen happening with the possibility of funds being raised to bring the chain out of bankruptcy, there is a possibility that we may not see the liquidation of Toys R Us, but that remains to be seen. Now oops, I forgot to do that too. All right, hold on here. Oops. The other news though news that happened this week is, of course, the firing of McCabe. What was his first name? McCabe, who was the associate FBI director, McCabe, right? What a Christmas gift! Excuse me, Christmas gift. It was his. He was turning 50. He was going to retire on Sunday, but then, of course, he got the message from Jeff Sessions saying that he was going to be fired, and I guess that happened last Friday night. What a way to begin your retirement, right? And in fact, I guess technically he's not retired, right? He's actually considered to he was considered to be fired, so he was terminated, and there is some worry that he may not be Andrew McCabe, that's his name, that he may not be able to receive his pension like he had thought. So that could be a real problem. But of course, I find it quite funny, to be honest with you, the whole idea of Sessions, right? Jeff Sessions, our Attorney General, and his seemingly the love affair, I guess you could say, that he and Donald Trump have. You know, one day Trump is mad at him, the next day he's praising him, and Sessions, you know, when it looks like he's on Trump's bad side, Sessions will do something that will make Trump love him again, and that's what I feel like I see with these two. And because you remember what happened with Rex Tillerson, right? You know, Rex Tillerson was where was he in? I think he was in Kenya, was it? I believe he was in Kenya when he had gone there for some diplomatic work as Secretary of State, of course. But I guess he ate something that didn't agree with him, and he ended up getting diarrhea or something of the sort. And you know, according to sources that I've read, you know, John Kelly gave him the message, and he found out, you know, while he was on the toilet. And the unfortunate part is that the president seemed to have get a real kick out of the fact that he had humiliated, or at least or at least tried to humiliate Tillerson by having him fired in that manner. I guess that's a sort of payback for the apparent words that Tillerson had used against the president, possibly. Who knows? All right. Well, like I said, it's good to be back. And there is one more segment. I guess we are not going too long, like I said. I do want to go about 30 minutes. Although I realize I made one other mistake. The goal is to record this to broadcast live, and then to record what I have broadcast and upload that to YouTube. Now, believe it or not, there are ways you can broadcast to YouTube and to Facebook at the same time. There is a service called Restream, but it does cost money, and I don't know if it's really worth it to go live on both platforms. However, once I get through here, I'll upload the recording straight to Facebook. Straight to YouTube, the same program that you're watching now. So you can always catch me on YouTube later on. Okay, well, let's see. Other than that, I can't think of much before I bring on my guest. Let me make a few adjustments here. Let's see now. What did I do with it? Oh, yeah. All right. So I was reading an article. Well, actually, my friend, who will be coming on in just a second, his name is also Richard. His name is Richard Pugh. And he sent me this article from the New York Times, and actually I saw a couple of people who also posted it as well, which talks about the reach of racism for black boys, or extensive data shows punishing reach of racism for black boys. And as you can see there in the opening, the lead, it says, "Black boys raised in America, even in the wealthiest families and living in some of the most well-to-do neighborhoods, still earn less in adulthood than white boys with similar backgrounds, according to a sweeping new study that traced the lives of millions of children." So, not millions, but it shows that basically it's saying that regardless, if you're black, even if you grow up in a wealthy household, you still will not make as much as your white counterpart. And so I did want to bring on my friend here. There you go here. Let's bring on Richard Pugh, and we're going to discuss this. And like I said, he's... give me a second here. Oh, there it is. All right. Okay, so... He said, I'm a one-man show here, actually. So that always means I have a little extra to do. Let me type in his name. There we go. All right. So we should hear it ring in just a minute. I will say, like I said, my internet is a little bit janky, so we'll see how it handles. Could also mean that I'll have to change providers. Goodbye AT&T, because this is ridiculous. All right, there is Mr. Pugh. I hope this works okay. I'm pulling up you. Can you hear me okay? Oh, hold on. Okay, good. And now I have you off of mute. And then let's look at our audio mixer to see how the mixer is looking. Say something again. I can hear you. I think it will be okay. Yes, I can hear you, and it looks like the audio mixer is pulling through just fine. So now the one thing I didn't do, and that's the one thing I forgot to do. I forgot to do a split screen to see, because I think I have the ability to do two screens at once, but I don't think I know how to do it right now. But I'm going to put you on screen.
Is someone else going to be on with us?
No, it's just no, but just a split screen between you and me. But actually, if I put you in the main screen, there you are. If I put you in the main screen, you can still see me up in the little top right hand corner. So that's good enough. All right. Anyway, without further ado, I just want to introduce my viewers to Mr. Richard Pugh, longtime, very good friend of mine. We've known each other how long? What, 20, 26? No, 27, 27 years. 1991 is when we first met. So, so good to have you agree to join me. That's right. And of course, our viewers keep coming in and out. You know, I'm not saying that I won't tell you how many are watching us right now, but but anyway, the let's see. What did I want to do? Oh, I just want to put your name on the screen so people can see your name. Where is my graphic? Oh, there we go. There you are. Oh, let's see. Preview. Richard Pugh. All right, there you go. And now there's your name. Your name is on the screen, so you get your proper screen credit. Anyway, so what did you think of that New York Times article? Give me your. You got had a chance to read it, right?
Yeah, I did go. I did read it extensively. I kind of breezed through it the other day when I sent it to you, but I really kind of read it thoroughly this time. So, um, disturbing,
How
to say
so?
the least.
I mean, and in your mind, why is it disturbing?
You wouldn't think that. Well, you wouldn't think that that there would be such a precipitous drop from you being raised wealthy in an African American family. I mean, the article even touched on the fact that you pretty much have the same chances of being incarcerated if you come from a rich black family if you're a black male. So just really disturbing.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
then,
because
yeah.
you would think that if you achieve the level of wealth, something that comes with that would be some form of security. But I don't know why I believe that.
Well, you know, the other thing that I found interesting was the number of whites who are able to come up out of poverty as well. So if you may have noticed that
Right.
graphic, it also showed that they are able to come up out of poverty at the same time while many of our folks fall into poverty or stay pretty much the same. Um, Although I think in your comment to me, which was after when you had first breezed through it, was that no surprise here or something like that. You know that you were curious as to why people were even shocked at this data.
Well, yeah, um, you know, when I like I said, when I breezed through it, I really didn't get into the meat of it. Um, but I guess my problem with these types of studies is once the study's completed, first of all, there's no suggestion as to what you do. Uh, you understand that this problem exists. What's the solution? I mean, you've identified a problem. We pretty much know that this problem's been going on for quite some time now. But what's the solution? And these studies never really touch on what the solution is. I mean, we can continue to do study after study, decade after decade, talking about the same problem, but what's the solution? And I think the lawyer in the article touched on stating that there needs to be specific policies that address these problems because it's obvious that young black males are I won't use the term targeted, but they're definitely the ones who feel the brunt of the poverty in this country. So there need to be specific policies to address that. So, but I think that's a vague solution, or it's a vague recommendation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm trying to remember. There was something else that struck me about that article. I guess I looked more at the just the income disparities. I didn't. I did see a little bit about that one young man, the attorney there from Maryland. I guess he was from the Silver Spring, if I'm not mistaken.
Silver Springs, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, it said he grew up poor, but then but he worked in the, I guess, as an attorney in the Obama administration. And I guess he was held out more as an exception than the rule, which is of course very ironic.
Right.
Let's see, anything else?
The
Well,
one
go
thing
ahead.
that stuck out to me was when the one thing that stuck out to me was when they stated that in the poorest white neighborhoods, the
Well, yeah. I mean, well, I mean, if you think about it, I mean, look at the number of you know non-college educated. I mean, that's it's non-college educated, non-college educated black versus non-college educated white, and the opportunities that the white fellow usually is usually able to um, access versus what a young black man is able to access. And a lot of that, I mean, and a lot of that, and really, they talk about racism, and of course, the term I like to go back to is institutional racism. It's not necessarily all the time just blatant, you know, and get over, get away. You're not welcome here. But it's more the whole idea of who you know, and you know, your father and your
I
father
didn't
before
really
him.
catch that.
Pardon? I'm sorry. What'd you say?
I missed what you said. You said it
Oh,
was.
I was just saying
It's not.
it's not always so much a matter of it's not always so much a matter of blatant racism, but institutional racism, right? So where that the
Right.
that the young black kid, especially from a poor neighborhood, doesn't have a chain of people that he can go to help him move up the ladder, even if he decides not to go to college. If he decides he wants to be an air conditioning and refrigeration person, I mean, sure, he can go to school for that, but he may not necessarily have the contacts once he gets out of school to be able to be really successful. Whereas there's a much greater chance, I'm not saying it's going to be perfect, but there's a much greater chance that white kid that white kid is going to have access to people who know someone who knows someone else, and they can put in a good word. That's just so that's what I'm talking about with the institutional racism.
I agree with you there, and I've often said this, and I have to be cautious as to what I say on your broadcast because I don't want to appease audiences. But I've often said,
Well, it's not like there's anyone watching anyway, so we don't have to worry too much.
um, these, well, who knows who's going to be
They
watching
might
later?
watch later. That's true.
Desegregation was probably, uh, yeah, desegregation probably was one of the biggest blows to the black community because there was a time when my dad could be a janitor and he lived right next door to your dad who was a doctor. And because you had to live in certain neighborhoods, the professionals and the more affluent blacks, degrees, lived next door to the blue collars. So I could go next door to your house and speak to your dad if I wanted to get into college because there was a doctor right next door, even though my dad might have been a garbage man or a janitor or something of that nature. But when desegregation happened and um, more affluent blacks could move into white neighborhoods, pretty much there was a brain drain in the African American community, and those who could leave left, and the blue collar people were just left behind. So I think that was a big blow to um, to the African American community. And another thing that this is more or less anecdotal, but I was talking to my sister and her husband about three incidents that occurred to us in terms of, hey, we we think that we understand that we think that we're being compensated the same sometimes if we have an African American working at one job and there's a white counterpart in the same position. There's a myth that we're being paid the same. And my sister was a buyer at it was May Company at the time, so as you know how far back that was. She was a buyer and she was having financial difficulty. So there was a new uh, buyer who came in who had some financial planning background, and he came to her apartment and wanted to help her work out her finances. So he had her kind of list what she made and where her bills were going. So what he found out was he was like, "Wait a minute, this is what they're paying you?" And he says, "No, no, the job that you're in is slated for this amount of money." She was literally being paid less than what the requirement for that job, the bottom, the minimum payment for that job. She was being paid under that. So they had just hired another female went to her and she says, "Hey, how much are you being paid?" Come to find out that that lady was making much more than she was. She was being paid more than the minimum. And my sister basically worked herself up from manager from salesperson to manager to assistant buyer to buyer. So that was one incident. Another incident was where her husband, who was an electrician at the time, walked into the the trailer. You know, had trailers on site where they do most of their administrative stuff. He walked in and they were running an ad for construction helper or electrician helper, whatever it was. It's basically just an entry level position. And the phone happened to ring, and it was a gentleman on the phone inquiring about the newspaper ad for the job. And when he told him what the job paid, the guy, not knowing that he was talking to a black guy, he said, "Dude, I'm white. You gonna pay me that much? I'm white." He literally said that. Lastly, I was working a job when I was working Cap City's ABC and Penny Saver. I was the supervisor of a new. I was basically what was called back then. It was called four color strippers, and what you did was basically when you see a color ad, someone has to put those things together. Literally, you mix those colors together. So you have four basic colors, and you basically strip these different. Um, I forget what they call them, but they're basically sheets, and then it's merged together, and it gives you that four color ad. Well, we had bought a new press. We had started a new department. I was the head of that department. We hired. There was a kid who worked there as a camera operator. Left for another company. Came back, and they put him underneath me. And he left his pay stub in the um, lunchroom one day. Just ripped his check off and left it on there. So I wouldn't have noticed it, but I was standing there talking to my boss, and my boss noticed it, and he reached down and snatched it up. Well, his action to reach down and snatch it up, it triggered me that it was something I should have been seeing. So immediately, it was like in my mind, I took a snapshot of it, and at where it showed rate, he was being paid $3 more an hour than I was. So I reviewed this in my mind, and I'm like, this can't be. So I went to my boss and I went and asked him. I said, "Are you paying Malcolm $3 more an hour than you're paying me? I'm the supervisor of the department. You paying a worker more than you're paying me?" And he said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, the reason why we can do that is because he left and he went to the competitor and he came back and he got experience over there. He's going to move back." So those are three. There's anecdotal, but we are under the impression that we know what we're being paid. And I think that's one of the reasons why they tell you you can be fired if you discuss pay. I think there was a law that was passed just recently that basically stated that they can't do that anymore. You can discuss pay. But you know and I know for a long time, you weren't to discuss what you're being paid. Your salary, you could be fired for that. And I think the misconception is that we have is that we're being treated equally, even though we're being hired in places, um, hired in places with white counterparts who are doing the same job, but they're being paid more. And that's basically what I
Yeah.
wanted to say.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, no. And I mean, you're right. I mean, basically, I as well. I never, I still don't discuss pay with anybody. I don't. And now, one of the big differences I know, like in my parents' case, they came through civil service. So in that case, there's probably less of that, but there's still, I do know of instances where even in civil
Right,
service, people are given promotions though, and put into certain jobs where maybe other people uh, aren't given those same opportunities. So yeah, even in civil service where salaries are more public, you can still have that
right.
same issue arise. Well, I don't want to keep you any
Well,
longer.
I
Oh yeah,
think
go ahead, go ahead, go ahead. Let's end with this. Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to say real quickly. Um, I think it's ridiculous for us to think that we should be paid. All things being equal, yeah, we should be paid the same. But it's ridiculous for us to think that they're going to pay us the same. And I think that what this article demonstrates is that, first of all, we're
Something like that. Yes, yes.
With that kind of money, that yeah, that puts us in the top rankings globally in terms of countries. If you got that kind of money coming through, you're gonna have to start acting like a nation, and we're gonna have to start looking at the way that. I mean, I haven't really done much research into the information that I've gotten from this article, but the one thing that I know is that it's like a bucket with a hole in the bottom of it, and the money just flows through. And if we don't find a way to capture that 1.5 trillion, because that's the difference I think between our community and other communities. The money doesn't circulate; it just passes through,
Yep.
and no wealth is accumulated. And we have to figure out a way to plug that hole. And one of the ways that we do that, well, one of the approaches that we should have is we're going to have to probably do some drastic things that are going to be uncomfortable for us. But if you look at the way that things are trending, that's not going to be any more comfortable. We're going to have to start doing some really drastic things. And I think it'll be uncomfortably mentally. It might even be somewhat uncomfortably physically. But I think it's going to be more so uncomfortably mentally because it's going to contrast and it's going to fly in the face of what we've accepted as the American way of life. But that American way of life, for whatever reason, isn't necessarily benefiting us. And I think we're going to have to start looking at some more drastic approaches to family, economics, education, um, and just everything that affects us socially, economically, politically. Um, we're going to have to start looking at it differently. And if we need to start doing it now. I mean, everybody says that. Every generation says it has to be now. But it can't be tomorrow. And I don't want to take up too much more of your
No,
time.
no, no,
I
no. That's fine.
appreciate
No,
it.
no, no. I was just going to say
But
the
my take.
because you made me think of something else. Well, two things. One is I did hear an interview the other day with an author, and I don't remember her last name. Her first name was Angel, I believe, and her last name may have been Harris. I'm going to have to look it up. But she's written a recent book about the black dollar, and so of course, just as you said, uh, the the problem that um, we often face with black wealth is the fact that our dollars aren't recycled. I think they only go through what is it once or something like that, if that much, versus other communities where
It
it's
doesn't even
multiples.
bounce once.
It doesn't even bounce once. It just kind of evaporates. Whereas other communities
Yeah.
of people,
It,
it can go through three or four or five times before it finally leaves their communities.
I think Asians, it goes around 8 times.
That okay,
They're the highest.
yeah, okay. So, yeah, 8 times. That's
Then comes the Jews, and then whites, and Hispanics.
okay, right. And of course, some of that is just in terms of where businesses are located. I don't know, I'm not sure. Also, some of that too is just, you think about it. The same person who I was listening to her show mentioned something. When it comes to things that we make, what do we make? We tend to make food and things like oil, body oil. Not that those things aren't important, but we're not necessarily making hard goods or even contracting to make hard goods that people need.
We don't. But the one thing that I can say is this, and I'm not the originator of this thought, so and I wish I knew who I could. I think the credit goes to Dr. Amos Wilson. If you're familiar with him, he's may he rest in peace. He died some years ago, but he said this. He stated that the the music business alone, with all the people that it employs,
Right. Yeah.
I want LeBron James. LeBron, the team that LeBron has around him are people that he's known they're African Americans, and I applaud him for going that route. You know what I mean? But that needs to be replicated, and not only that, but us in the rank and file need to get ourselves to the point where we can fill those positions should they become available. Because are we ready to step into those positions and do those jobs, whatever those jobs may be? We have to be prepared for that. So,
Well, I'm going to let you go, and I hope we can do this again very soon. Perhaps it can even become a regular feature. Who knows?
hey man, anytime
Uh,
you call me, anytime I'm here for you.
yeah, maybe we'll have to do that one phrase that I had mentioned before. Since we both have the same first name, we can call the segment "A Couple of Dicks." We'll see.
Yeah, that's,
Anyway, all right.
who knows what type of audience that's going to attract. But once
Hey,
they hit the contact,
that's
we'll
right.
drop the.
Hey, I'll take what I can get right now. So there we go. All right. Anyway, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
All right.
All right,
Well,
thanks, Rich.
okay. All right. Well, that about does it for this first edition of the Scooting Scholar. As I get rid of my what do we call it? Oh, FaceTime. I can't even remember what you call that product. Anyways, I get rid of my FaceTime. I just want to say thank you to those of you who have joined or will be joining in the future. Once again, this is something that I plan to do every week at 9 o'clock. So I know I have a history of, I guess that's the story of my life. Stopping and starting and stopping and starting. As I tell my students, it took me 18 years to get my undergraduate degree. So that just because I stop and start, and so the same thing with the show, right? It's something fun to do. If I get dozens and upon dozens of viewers, that would be fantastic. But for now, it's just good. It's just something fun to do. Good practice. A good way to talk out issues of the day and of the week and etc. So anyway, I've got to scoot, but I will see you again here on Facebook Live, same time, 9 p.m. Pacific, next week. Bye bye.